Hi, this is Timothy Zahn, author of Thrawn, and you're listening to Star Wars Reactions. Good for you.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
In 1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome back to Star Wars Reactions. We are going to have a great show today. We're going to have so much fun. So let's not waste any time getting things started. My name is Aaron Harris. I am one half of your hosting duo for this show. My other half, David Motters, he is still on hiatus right now. So if y'all could continue to send your thoughts and prayers to him, I know you'd appreciate it. But I am not alone tonight. I know, everybody cheer. But joining me is no stranger to podcasting and Star Wars at all. He has been around for a while. He has been the host of Idiots Array podcast, Star Wars School of Dentistry. He also is hosting the Dental Realist podcast. Please welcome the one and only Ryder Waldron. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing great, and Aaron, I appreciate you having me on. And, they may wish by the end of this show that you were all by yourself. I'll hopefully not train wreck this, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, no, you will be fine. We will do great. Most train wrecks happen because of me. So
That's right.
and we like to call those moments Carabast moments.
That's perfect.
So you will probably hear that happen a few times tonight, but it's all good. We enjoy them. They make us laugh. So
That's right.
So let's get going here. First thing I want to actually touch on before we actually get into our discussion of the latest Bad Batch episode is we got the announcement today that on May 4th, Star Wars Day, we are getting what they're calling Volume 2 of Star Wars Visions. This will have 9 brand new shorts spanning the Star Wars saga, brand new stories from 9 different production animation companies. And these, I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't a huge fan of the first Visions go around, but I'm willing to give it another shot. What were your thoughts on Visions and the announcement today?
Yeah, and I kind of just saw it on Twitter today, so I didn't know all the details, but I'm excited about it. I liked Visions the first season. I wasn't like a diehard like some people were, but I thought it was very good, and I thought it was interesting, and I thought that, I don't think it's canon, so there's not a lot riding on it. I mean, if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not, and it's a lot of people are really into anime and things like that and really enjoy it, and so I thought the animation in most of it was really well done and really cool and just different than we usually see in Star Wars animation. So I thought that was cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was very cool. The animation for these episodes were great. There's no fault in that, and everything was well done in these stories. They just weren't my cup of tea,
Yeah.
Like David and I discussed when the first volume came out, because he really enjoyed them. I was on the edge, so I was like, everything's not going to appeal to everybody, but I mean, we're looking at some great companies here. Like I said, 9 different animation groups are going to be participating in these 9 episodes. When we got, do we have all 9 names? We do. We have all 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we got all 9 names of the episodes already.
Okay.
There's going to be one entitled Sith from Studio El Guri. I'm probably going to butcher these names because they all got strange names. So forgive me ahead of time, people. But first one titled Sith from El Guri Studio, who was written and directed by Rodrigo Blas. Another one is going to be Screecher's Reach and it's going to be made by Cartoon Salon, directed by Paul Young. Then In the Stars, made by Studio Punk Robot, written by Gabriel Osario. Oh, here's next one is I Am Your Mother. I can't hear Vader saying that line.
I just saw that one. That's good. That's
Studio Aardman, Magdalena Osinska is the director.
Nice.
Then Journey to Darkhead, Studio Mir, Haeyong Ging Park. I butchered that one. I know I did. Is the director. Then, of course, Spy Dancer, Studio La Cacheta. Writer director Julian Cheng.
Yep.
Bandits of Golak, Studio 88 Pictures, director Ishan Shukla. I like that. Shukla.
Rolls off the tongue, nice.
It does. It just flows. Flows. Then we have The Pit, Studios de Art. I'm not even going to try that.
That one's a tough one.
That one's a tough one. It'll come out wrong, and then we'll have to deal with censors, and I'm not doing that. Yeah. But it's Studio de Art, insert name here, and Lucasfilm Limited. Writer and director and executive producer is Leandre Thomas. And it's co-directed by Justin Ridge, who, of course, did some Rebels, was one of the executive producers there on Resistance as well. So he's involved in that one.
Nice.
The last one here is Aya's Song. Studio is Triggerfish, written by Nadia and directed by Nadia Darius and Daniel Clark. Now, there is a whole description of these, who these studios and people are with each title, and I'm not even going to attempt to read those. I'll post a link to it. It's there on the Star Wars website, so you can grab the link off the show notes. But I'm like I said, first round of Visions wasn't my thing, but I'm looking forward to the second round to see if we get anything new that maybe grab me this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to watch, and I'll probably watch a few times because we'll probably review it on Idiot's Array also. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. It's not at the top of my animation for Star Wars, but it's still cool and it's something different. So the good thing about all Star Wars now is that there's kind of something for everybody. I mean, even with the series that we've had, that some people like some people like all, some people don't like any of them, but we can all get along and try to enjoy what we enjoy.
Absolutely. And that's what's wonderful about it right now. It's no better time to be a Star Wars fan because there is something for everybody.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our discussion here because we are going to be sharing our reactions to the latest episode of The Bad Batch. This was the sixth episode of the second season. I almost said the sixth season.
Oh, maybe.
Well, who knows? We may get 6 seasons. You never know. Fingers crossed. But the second, I'm Carabast. See, this is just how it happens sometimes. You just get on a roll and tongue gets tied. And so the 6th episode of the second season, it was called Tribe. It was released on Disney Plus February 1st of 2023, directed by Stuart Lee, written by Matt Michnovetz. This brief synopsis for this episode, of course, is during the mission for Sid, Clone Force 99 rescues a Wookiee prisoner from the Vanguard Access, which is a droid-run smuggling ring, apparently. The Wookiee, come to find out, is a Jedi, and not just any Jedi. It's one we have seen before. It's Gungi. Yes. Of course, he's been on the run since Order 66, just trying to make his way home to Kashyyyk. So everybody agrees after they rescue him, let's take him home. Upon arriving on Kashyyyk, they discover that a group of Trandoshans working for the Empire have systematically destroyed the villages and are taking prisoners and killing Wookiees, and it's just not a good situation. So after they rescue another Wookiee from the Trandoshans, they meet up with a village that is on the run where Hunter and the gang decide to make a stand. and the battle ends in their favor with the Wookiees, but not before a message is sent to the Empire, making them aware of Gungi's presence on Kashyyyk.
Yes.
So let's go with our initial reactions to the episode. Ryder, you're our guest, so tell us, what was your initial reaction when you first sat down and watched Tribe for the first time?
It's at least in my top 2 episodes for this season. I thought the Solitary Clone was very good, but this one had a little bit of everything. I mean, what I love about the Bad Batch is the loyalty they have to each other, but they're also loyal to the good in the universe, and they recognize that pretty immediately, it seems like, with Gungi, that he is a Jedi and he's one of the good guys, for lack of a better, description. And I just really like this. We haven't seen a lot of lightsabers in the Bad Batch, so it was almost like shocking to see that. We just haven't seen it since maybe the first episode or so. Yeah. And so that was really cool. I like Wookiees. I like seeing the Wookiees. I liked some of the tie-ins with maybe some other media that maybe we'll get into a little bit later. But overall, I thought it was maybe the best episode of the season so far. Maybe my favorite, at least.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to have to agree with you there, because Solitary Clone has been my favorite for this season so far, and this definitely takes the second spot with ease. It was just a fun episode with the going back to Kashyyyk, the return of Gungi. It just was so much fun, and it hit emotionally on many different levels: excitement, sadness, and everything. And and I loved how, without showing any flashbacks to Order 66, they sucker punched you with an Order 66 emotion all over again, just by seeing how Gungi reacted to the clones.
Yes.
And it just really was oh man, chilling. Once we got to Kashyyyk and we had the clones trying to help the village save from the people destroying basically the villages and the planet, it kind of gave me a Star Wars meets Avatar feel for a little bit, which was cool.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I really liked too how we got a little bit more exposure to the culture of the Wookiees on Kashyyyk when it comes to their interactions with the forest. And I thought that was spectacular too. So
I love that too. I thought that was so cool that, the trees have a plan, and it's like, the trees have a plan. Okay, let's see what they have to say. It's like, that makes no sense at all, but it made perfect sense in something like this. I mean, I love that. And, Gungi, if I remember right from the Clone Wars, his lightsaber hilt is made out of wood. Is that right?
That is correct.
That? And so, I mean, it's such a cool tie-in. And, you talked about a gut punch with the with the Order 66 kind of tie-in, and where Gungi is also a child, it makes it even that much more traumatic. I felt like, I mean, these adult Wookiees, they can maybe handle some stuff, but Gungi, he's a kid, but he's ready to fight, and that's really cool.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what Bad Batch has done really well with Order 66. With the first episode, we got to see the Padawan on a run with Caleb Doom, Kanan Jarrus, there in that first episode. And now with Gungi, of course, being a Padawan as well, we get to see definitely a whole different side, because in the movies, we saw the Jedi on the adult masters on the run in the movies. In Clone Wars, we got to see Ahsoka on the run. In Rebels, we have a grown-up Kanan on the run, in hiding. Not really on the run, but he's in hiding at this point. So we've seen those different variations. Even in Mandalorian, when we got the flashback with for Grogu, we see the clones, we see the Jedi falling, but it's still an emotional scene, but it doesn't have the same impact as this does, because you never really see Grogu in that scene. You just see him where he is with Ahsoka and Mando at that point. So, but this was really to see the children hurting. It goes right back to the one scene where Anakin's about to hack everybody down, all the younglings. So
Yeah, and even when he's sitting on the ship with the Bad Batch, and I think it's Hunter that says he's a Jedi, he's not safe anywhere. I mean, that just, yeah, I don't know, that got to me.
Oh yeah, that was a very strong statement too, because anytime I know I'm a dad, so anytime my kid gets hurt or is not feeling well, they want to go home. Gungi wants to go home. He wants to go to the place where he thinks he'll feel safe. And every kid, for every kid, majority of the time, that is home. So it kind of gives you that realization. And even when Hunter said he's still, they talk about it later at the end of the episode when Hunter's like, they're both kids. They really can't experience that in this war, in this galaxy right now. It's really a sad state of affairs for Omega and for Gungi, which I think is why they got along so well throughout this episode. I mean, Omega's the one that found him and rescued him, so that trust was built, and he trusted Omega enough to trust the clones. So and we see them just kind of building on their friendship, just instantaneously through the dilemma, because they're both kids. Yeah.
And I mean, and I'm a dad like you are. And so anytime a show or a movie puts children in danger or they have a traumatic experience, it makes my heart really go out to them. Like you said, adults, they can handle it, whatever. Grown Jedi, they're used to this stuff. But the kids, even though you're a Jedi Padawan, you're still a kid. And Omega and Gungi have really lost the only family they knew, with Omega losing all the clones and Kamino being destroyed, or not Kamino, but Tipico City, and the Jedi all being destroyed. And those are the family that Gungi knew. And he says he can remember the planet Kashyyyk in his dreams, but he hasn't probably been to Kashyyyk since he was just a tiny kid, maybe a baby even, depending on when he was taken to the Jedi Temple. So yeah, that's rough. And he's going back to people that, they're his people, or his, Wookiees like he is, but they aren't familiar to him yet. And but I felt better when he got there, when Yana, the leader, came out and kind of welcomed him to the tribe and whatever. I felt better for him. It made me feel better. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when they first met up with Yana and everything, Hunter hit the nail on the head for Gungi situations. Like, he's just trying to come home to his village, but he doesn't know where his village is.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember. He's been gone for so long. So it really is, and especially with it really hit home for me, because especially with one of my youngest came out of the foster system. So we're the only home she remembers.
Right.
And she bounced around to several homes before we got her at 2.5, and we're the only home she remembers. And she's met some of the other foster parents, because we've maintained friendships with them, but she's met them. She doesn't remember them at all. It's just very, she just knows. It's very interesting. And just kind of his whole situation, not knowing really knowing this is his home, but not where his home was very heartbreaking for me as a dad.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So
yeah, I felt the same way, even though he's going back to Kashyyyk, and we feel like from outsiders that, you should feel safe. You should feel like everything's better now. But, he's had a master that has probably been like a parent to him for years, and that's all he's known. And, Master Yoda and the Jedi Council and stuff, and that was safe and that was home. And this is just different.
Oh, absolutely. It's very different, and it's definitely going to take some getting used to. He's been on the run for all that time. So it's now getting out of the mentality of running. He still has to hide, but he doesn't have to run and fight for survival like he was on the run now that he's back with the tribe.
Yes. Yeah. You're right.
Now, I know a lot of people out there have not watched Clone Wars. So their first exposure to Gungi was this episode. So just to let you know, Gungi was originally showed up in the showed up for the first time in the 6th episode, ironically the 6th episode of the 5th season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, in an episode called The Gathering. And there was a whole arc of that where he and several other younglings are traveling with Ahsoka Tano. So if you want the history on and see Gungi as a Padawan in the Order still before the fall of Order 66, go back and watch those episodes. They're really good episodes. A lot of action, a lot of growing, not only for the younglings but for Ahsoka as well in this episode, because she's still technically a Padawan while all this is going on. So she's got, as a Padawan, she's the one guiding the younglings. So
yeah, and those are good episodes. That's a good arc. And I mean, what's great about Star Wars that I was thinking about today, because for instance, I was at work today and one of my employees who loves the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, she told me that they were watching as a family last night and her sister and brother had no idea who Gungi was because they haven't watched the Clone Wars. But the thing that Star Wars does well is you don't necessarily need to have watched the Clone Wars, even though they're so good. Why wouldn't you watch them? Mm-hmm. But you still felt the emotion just seeing Gungi and how they kind of put you in his place in this episode, whether you'd watch the Clone Wars or not. But yeah, it was kind of nice to have the history with Gungi. It just hit a little differently.
Yeah, it does, and they do, and I love how they do that, because you don't have to know who he is from Clone Wars to enjoy this episode. It is a bonus if you do.
Perfect.
It's a
yep.
It's a nod to us to the longtime animation fans in there. So I enjoy that they've done that several times through the series, and I love how they're doing that. It makes it fun to look for those Easter eggs.
Yeah, and it's not too on the nose. It's not, like Yoda's showing up out of nowhere just to get viewers in or something like this. This is a very subtle character that many people wouldn't even think about or even expect to show up, and here you go, and okay, that's awesome. And I like it when they do that, because it's almost like a little bit of a reward for those of us who have watched all the Clone Wars or Rebels or whatever else. It just feels like a little nod to us. Yeah,
a little nod, a little pat on the back, a little high five. Yep. Yeah, it's exactly what it is, and it feels great. So, but yeah, so I mean, and if I know some people, this is animation's not their thing, and they're just starting in animation, or they've watched everything. That's awesome. But really, even if animation is not your thing, I totally respect that. You got to give Clone Wars and Rebels at least a once over, because it will change your outlook on the saga, because it fleshes out the story so much in so many different ways. It'll give you a whole new respect for the movies that came along with it. So
absolutely, yeah. The storytelling in those is just top notch, and I love that you have more time to tell the story or to get into the story. And Rebels is kind of a linear story where Clone Wars bounces around, so they're totally different in the I guess the timeline they follow. But the storytelling, if you put that, some of those stories in live action or, a movie or something like that, you'd say it's some of the best stuff you've seen. And so, yeah, I hope people don't sleep on the animation just because it's animation.
Yeah, exactly. No, never. I would hope people would do that. I know some people do, but hopefully they're encouraged to go back and watch something. So, but yeah, so I want to take a moment here to talk about, we mentioned it during our opening reactions, our initial reactions, when we talk about Kashyyyk and the Wookiees and the Force having that almost spiritual relationship type there. Because one of the things we've been doing when there's not new Star Wars to review, which isn't that often, which we don't have a lot of free time nowadays. But we've been doing what we call our vintage reactions, where we go back and we're doing reviews of the Ewok series, the Droid series, and some of those shows from the 80s. And it struck me when they were like talking to the trees and everything. I'm like, that kind of kind of reminds me of Ewoks, because in that cartoon, they had that respect for the forest and everything, and almost dwelled communally with the forest. And it really felt like Ewoks to me, to be honest.
I totally agree. And when I was making my notes during when I've watched it a couple of times now, I was making notes and I put down just did Ewoks talk to the trees also? Because why not? I don't know if I don't know, but yeah, I didn't even think about the Ewoks, the cartoon, but I love what I thought of was the symbiotic relationship between the Naboo and the Gungans in The Phantom Menace, and I love how you said that it felt like a spiritual relationship. It does feel very much like that. And there was just such at least coming from the Wookiees, such a respect for the forest and the trees. And I probably have to think that the respect went both ways with the trees to the Wookiees. So I loved it. I thought it was so cool.
It was, because Wookiees have been a part of Star Wars since '77 with Chewbacca. So we have seen Wookiees. We've grown up with Wookiees. Wookiees have been just a part of Star Wars, but we never really had a real good fleshing out of their traditions and their people and their tribal functions and all this. This was honestly just like a glimpse through a keyhole of what could come, of what kind of stories could come from Kashyyyk, which I think would be incredible to see. And it just really goes hand in hand with what they did in that 80s Ewok show. Yeah.
I guess they maybe tried to do it in the holiday special when we had Life Day and Chewbacca was trying to get home, but I don't think that really counts that much. I thought of the tie-in with Lord of the Rings, where, the two hobbits are with the Ents and the trees come to help fight. I guess it's Mordor. I'm not a Lord of the Rings expert, but Mordor, I guess. And I thought that, why not? This is excellent.
Oh yeah, definitely was. There's Saruman. They went to Saruman the White. They went to battle with. Yes. Right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that connection. But yeah, you're exactly right. It does have that feel to it, where the Ents were just communicating in through talking to trees. It was crazy. So, but yeah, I could definitely see that too. Definitely a good feel.
Yep.
So next up, I want to talk about, because in my opening statement, I made the statement, kind of felt like Avatar meets Star Wars. And I really like how this episode portrayed that battle with the Trandoshans, because we got the Trandoshans come rolling through in separatist tanks, which I don't know if you caught it. Echo called those things Imperial tanks, not separatist tanks.
I did notice that. Yes.
Okay. I thought it was just me for a moment. Then I went back and read the closed captions. I'm like, no, he said Imperial. Okay. So apparently the Empire took over those separatist tanks, apparently.
Yeah. I think I think it was Echo when he was talking to Yana, or no, sorry, it was Hunter when talking to Yana that said, we used to fight for the Republic or something like that, but we don't see eye to eye with the Empire. I mean, they've recognized that there's a clear delineation from the Republic turning to the Empire, and they're good saying they represented the Republic, but they don't see the Republic and the Empire as the same thing, which I think is interesting and the right way to go about it, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Because and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things here in my notes right off the bat that I wanted to hit on before we were done was, he is, with what he is talked about in this episode, he's talking about he exactly, he said the Empires, we don't see eye to eye the Empire. We fought for the rebellion. When he's talking to Gungi, we did not follow those orders.
Yeah.
He is making that clear. He is literally, they've been on the run for a season and a half now, because we're coming up to the halfway point in the season. He's literally feels like he's drawing a line in the sand. And they've been on the run, they've been fighting, but this literally is a line in the sand saying, we don't trust those people. This is what we believe. And we're starting to see that. He's talking about helping the good in people. He's talking about helping. He's has sorrow for Omega and Gungi because they're just kids and having to go through this war. And when he's trying to explain to Omega why Gungi's scared of him, he's like, he has probably seen more than anybody else.
Yeah, that's right.
He's been through a lot. And you're starting to me, we're seeing Hunter finally, because he's always been hesitant in some of these missions that he's gone on that Sid sends him on. But we're starting to see, to me, a fleshing out of his personality where, all right, I'm drawing a line in the sand. We have to help.
Yep. I totally agree. And the Bad Batch is hunted just like these Jedi are, so they should feel kind of a kinship with them. I mean, they're all on the run, and yeah, it seems like Hunter at first was kind of, I don't want to get involved, and now it's we're involved whether we like it or not, so we got to start doing some good and helping those who can't help themselves. I mean, it's a lot of there's a lot of A-team feelings in there, things like that, which is pretty obvious, but you go around helping those who can't help themselves and, propping them up until they can help themselves, which is what I think the Wookiees will end up doing now. I mean, those dang Trandoshans are just terrible creatures, and they're working with the Empire. I mean, they just seem like mercenaries, and I loved seeing the leader, is it Commander Venom or whatever, get kind of spider webbed up and just hoisted up in the tree, and you just don't know exactly what happened to him. I like seeing that.
Yeah, and it's fun. It gives you that this is his end.
Yeah.
Without you actually seeing him get squashed. So,
yeah, it's still kid friendly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that's one thing too with this series, with them being on the run, going on these missions, we see them getting in their firefights and everything. Mm-hmm. And the only thing we keep seeing are stormtroopers and the leftover clone troopers getting shot. We never see we haven't seen anybody outside of that actually perish per se.
Yeah.
So they're being careful with that. So I thought that was smart on their part too, considering technically it's an animated show. Supposed to be for kids, but I almost feel like they're doing it for me.
Yeah, it was made personally for me because I at first was not super excited about the Bad Batch. I mean, this is going back to before the season started, and now I look forward to every episode. And it's like, I should have known it was going to be good, but this is great storytelling, and I get emotionally attached to these characters. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, it is. And I had my hesitations at first too, because I remember several celebrations ago, it was years ago, after the Clone Wars was actually canceled, they actually released the it wasn't complete, but it was basically the composite animation of the Bad Batch episodes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I could have enjoyed that when I watched it. Yep. Then when they're like, we're going to finish that and we're going to do that, and I'm like,
are you sure?
Are you sure you want to do that? Because by this point, we've all hyped it up in our minds so much. Got to be careful.
Yeah. Yep.
But they did good. They did good. So
yeah.
Yep. Perfect. So anything else about Tribe that you would want to hit on or discuss before we move into our closing thoughts here?
Well, one thing is, I always love tie-ins with other Star Wars media. And one thing is that when they're dealing with this Vanguard access, they're actually delivering forgeries of chain codes to them to fool the Empire. And we hadn't heard of chain codes, at least that I can think of, until The Mandalorian. So, I like all these little tie-ins, little nuggets and things going through the Star Wars galaxy. So that's another thing I thought of. I also thought of when they're cutting through the spider webs at the very first. It reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, and that just really sparked it for me.
Oh, so you probably really loved the last episode then.
I did, yes. Yes, I did.
That
had a lot of
had
stuff. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that was a full indie vibe on that
It
last
felt like
episode.
it. It felt like it. Yes.
Even
I
the
loved it.
music was very indie-ish in
Oh yeah.
that last episode. It was a lot of fun. So
Yeah. Excellent.
all right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. Let's go ahead and do our final thoughts. For me, I just loved the episode. It was fun. Like I said earlier, ranks right up there for my second favorite episode of the season. A lot of emotional impact, but a lot of fun at the same time. I enjoyed the unique look at the Wookiee beliefs. It was fun and interesting to see the impact of the battle. And this, I meant to hit on this in our discussion, but I'll mention it now. Is we always see the battles occurring, but we never really see the aftermath. And we see the battle happen, and then all of a sudden the battle's not over because now they have to try to save the forest and dig all these fire lines and everything to keep the forest from burning down. And they go to work on doing that almost immediately as the battle is ended. So we get to see the before, but we're also seeing the aftermath, which I thought was a unique perspective we usually don't see in these type of shows.
That's good. Yeah.
And of course, Gungi. Dude, it was great to see Gungi again. I really hope we get to see him again, and get to see more of his story. I'll settle for a series about Gungi on surviving on Kashyyyk with this tribe. Let's do it.
Yes.
It'll be fun. I'll take it. So, but those are my final thoughts. Ryder, what are your final thoughts on Tribe?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode also. I guess it threw me a little bit of a curveball because at the first I thought, we're going to be dealing with some droid smugglers, and then all of a sudden we're on Kashyyyk, and it's like, holy cow. We went, in 25 minutes, they really got a lot packed into this episode. And, I love the kid angle. I love Omega, how she's so helpful. Sometimes, she almost gets him in trouble, but I loved seeing her and Gungi working together. She doesn't get to see a lot of kids in the galaxy. She's hanging out with these old men all the time. And, it was probably nice for her to hang out with somebody that's, relatively her same age. And I like the spiritual aspect with the trees connecting to the forest and the Wookiees, and the Bad Batch getting exposed to that. I mean, it's okay for, the Wookiees already understand that, but it's good for the Bad Batch to see all these different aspects of people and how they live in the galaxy. And I think it makes them feel like they can maybe help more and more people out. So yeah, overall, this was just a solid episode for me. And it makes me more excited for next week. And I love seeing Gungi. I like seeing a lightsaber too. I've forgotten what a lightsaber looked like in animation for a long time. And I really like that. But it also made me realize I don't need to see lightsabers in Star Wars to have it be good Star Wars. So, it really, really hit all the points for me today.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because we've learned time and time again, you don't need lightsabers to make good Star Wars.
Yep.
And so I'm glad they're actually doing that and following through with it in episodes like this. They're in series like this. I mean, I feel even did that with Rogue One too. They had the whole movie, no lightsabers, till Vader shows up at the end and just, has to bring the house down. So
which is so good.
It's probably one of the best scenes in Star Wars, I would have to say.
Yeah.
So, of course, everybody knows we do grade episodes as we review them. Just like if you were getting a grade in school, we grade the episode. So, it'd be like A, B, C, D, or F, minuses, pluses, whatever. I can honestly say, in all the years I've done reviews of shows, I've never seen a show get an F. I've seen a D.
Okay.
But I've never seen an F. But for me, I'll go first. I've given this an easy A minus. It was fantastic. It was great. It was good. I mean, usually with us, we look at the shows we've reviewed before, and we have a standard for an A plus, which goes all the way back to Twilight of the Apprentice from Rebels. That is about as A plus as you can get. So this is good, and it's up there, but it's no way near Twilight of the Apprentice good. So That's why A- for me. How would you grade it, Ryder?
Yeah, before you even said A-, I had already thought A- on this one. I figured, Solitary Clone would maybe be closer to an A maybe this season. I'm not sure, but yeah, if we're saying Twilight of the Apprentice is an A+, then I'd say this is a good A-, and that's a good grade because Twilight of the Apprentice, if there was like an A++++, it would get that, and that is just such a So I'm gonna go with an A- for Tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, Twilight Apprentice is about as close to perfection as you could get in Star Wars. So,
absolutely.
Perfect. Well, that wraps up our discussion. Ryder, why don't you tell us a little bit about your shows and about where people, what they cover, what they're about, where people can find them if they want to check them out, and of course where they can find you online if they want to hit you up and talk about some Star Wars.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate having me on. This is great. So I do a podcast called the Star Wars School of Dentistry, and that's just something I do by myself. They're about 10 to 15-minute episodes. And I usually either take a Star Wars character to diagnose and treatment plan as a dentist. I'm a dentist for my profession. Or I take a dental topic and use a Star Wars character to kind of discuss it. So it's good for any Star Wars fans. I mean, they're just kind of fun and hokey, and there's a lot of bad jokes on there. So it might dad jokes on Star Wars reactions. You can come to Star Wars School of Dentistry for bad jokes. So and then I co-host a podcast called Idiot's Array where we cover all aspects of Star Wars, and currently we're dissecting and discussing the Bad Batch. And so we'll take a certain topic that we like, sometimes like a lightsaber battle, or take all lightsaber battles and put them in a bracket of like 16 and kind of debate them tournament style and get down to our Idiot's Array of the top 3 lightsaber battles in Star Wars, things like that. So we do fun stuff, we take deep dives. And so if you guys that are listening want to check out some of the Star Wars podcasts, you can find both of those on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Ryder Waldron DDS, and you can find me on Instagram at Ryder Waldron DDS also. You can find my podcasts at Star Wars Dentist on Twitter and at Idiots Array Pod on Twitter, and on Instagram at Star Wars School of Dentistry and Idiots Array Podcast. And can I just tell one last story here, Aaron?
Go right ahead.
The first episode I ever listened to of Coffee with Kenobi, you were there. I'm trying to think what the term was, but you were like the reporter from Florida, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And so I think that was the first Star Wars podcast I listened to. So ever since I've been into Star Wars podcasting, I have been like connected to you from that point on. So I just always think about that. And I thought this is the coolest podcast. And so I'm glad I still get to listen to you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love hearing that. I was the Star Wars Weekend Special Correspondent.
Yes, correspondent. That's what I was thinking of. Yes.
For Coffee with Kenobi.
Exactly right. Yep.
Before, yes. Oh my gosh, I have so many great memories from back then. It was so much fun.
Yeah, and you did such a good job that I literally thought you were a professional news reporter or journalist. That I thought Corey and Dan did podcasting as a profession. So I thought, oh, these guys must be rich. And so then I got on podcasting and found out that's not true. But but you did such a great job. I thought it was awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot after all these years too. So I love that. Oh my gosh, so many good memories.
Yep.
Oh, so many good memories. So perfect. Of course, everybody, make sure you're let us know what you thought of the episode with the Bad Batch and everything. You can hit us up on our social media. We are at SW Reactions Pod on Facebook and Twitter, SW Reactions on Instagram, Pinterest, and Tumblr. Tumblr, where you'll find all of our show notes, including all the links to our stuff. And of course, everything, all the links to Ryder shows and social media will be there as well for you to easily access. So check it out there when it posts, which will post when this drops. So you could go there to find all your links. Or, of course, if you want to give us more feedback, you can always email us, swreactions@gmail.com. Always open and available 24 hours a day for your feedback and emails. I'm not awake 24 hours a day, so I may not respond, but you can email 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So just give me 24 to 48 hours to respond. There's my disclaimer.
Awesome.
So, well, Ryder, we end this show the same way every week, which means you get to experience our Star Wars dad joke of the week since you're with us.
Yes. Yes.
And I know when this post, David will apologize profusely on Twitter. He always does. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off.
Let's do it.
All right. So, what do you call a pirate droid?
I don't know. What do you call a pirate droid?
R2D2.
Okay, I'm gonna steal that and use it on my kids later. So
go right ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it.
R2D2.
That's good. That's good.
Ryder, Fred, this was an awesome time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This, I mean, the time flew by. This really flew by, and this was great. I appreciate you having me on for this episode too, because I really enjoyed this episode of the Bad Batch. So yeah, I can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Well, definitely. You're welcome to come back anytime and join us again if you want.
Anytime.
Perfect. Thank you everybody for listening. Y'all are awesome. We love y'all. We respect y'all. We're praying for y'all. Be safe, stay sound, stay healthy, be nice to somebody this week. I mean, just love on people, make the world better. So remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.